Tonight, COVID cases back on the rise in far west New South Wales, and SA Best calls for more police resources for the Giles electorate.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf Studios, your nightly news with Ruby Kamain begins now.
Good evening. After recently seeing a drop in COVID-19 cases across far west New South Wales, there has been a spike in numbers. Staff members from Far West Health have been furloughed after testing positive for the virus.
The 7-day rolling average for the Far West Local Health District at 319, up from last week's number 242, with the number still expected to rise.
We expect that number to in fact increase. We haven't reached a peak yet with the new variant of the Omicron virus.
Some of the 319 cases are people who work for Far West Health. Those staff have been furloughed.
That obviously puts our system under a great deal of pressure in terms of being able to maintain a whole range of services. We are coping at the moment, but it's a watching brief.
School numbers have also been impacted after showing a decrease the previous week.
Whilst the number's not large, but at the moment we're seeing a worrying trend in terms of increase in numbers.
It's not all bad news for the district, as vaccination rates sit with the state average. The only group lagging behind is the 5 to 11-year-olds.
We are sitting at 39% first dose and 4% second dose, whereas for the state it is 49% first dose and 9% second dose.
The message to parents: reconsider their negative stance on vaccination. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Deputy Premier has announced he will be appointed another office if he's re-elected this weekend. Dan Van Hulst Pelican will be able to work from Port Augusta and Port Pirie, but he says the new office won't be funded by taxpayers.
Another day, another election announcement. It's been a busy week of campaigning for the Deputy Premier, pledging $1 million to upgrade the Port Pirie Hospital helipad. On Tuesday, he announced the state government would provide $3 million to support the Arid Lands Botanic Gardens, and now he's announced he will get another office in Port Pirie.
But I am the only candidate who can confirm 100% that if I'm re-elected, we will have, for our electorate of Stuart, an electorate office in both Port Pirie and Port Augusta.
The current member for Stuart says he will be able to serve both communities better with 2 offices, but insists it won't cost taxpayers.
I've organised it so it won't actually cost anything extra for taxpayers. Department of Treasury and Finance can confirm that for you if you want, but I put the proposal to them very much with the people of Stuart in mind.
However, independent candidate Jeff Brock says having a second office will be funded by taxpayer money.
Well, first up, whatever costs are incurred with running electorate offices across all of the state has to come out of the taxpayers' money somewhere along the line.
If Mr. Brock gets elected on Saturday, he will ask the state government to allocate an office for him in Port Augusta. Christian Cominos, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meanwhile, SA Best candidate for Giles is calling for more resources for the city's police service, with an emphasis on overnight patrols. Tom Antonio says businesses need confidence their property will be protected.
A call to make the Upper Spencer Gulf safer for businesses and residents. This Waialanori pet store fed up with the large amount of break-ins to the shop and damage to their property.
So we've had multiple break-ins over the past 2 years. Some are pretty alarming. Damage to the property, obviously, it comes at a cost to the business.
Also saying animals have been harmed during the incidents, with staff left to clean up the aftermath confronted with the damage.
It emotionally upsets me and my team when we see things like that and come across them in the mornings.
SA Best's candidate for Giles calling for more police resources to be allocated to the electorate, saying only 2 police officers are available to patrol the city overnight.
That is not acceptable. And both parties, Labor and Liberal, have totally taken the City of Giles for granted.
Tom Antonio saying other local businesses are experiencing the same problem.
If people don't want to work in an environment like one behind me, and people in the homes are now installing security cameras, and that's how petrified people are, especially the elderly.
The current member for Giles agrees there is an issue with police resourcing, but questions why he's getting the blame.
I agree with them. We've had a Marshall Liberal government for the last 4 years, and it's interesting. They never hold them to account. Somehow it's myself in opposition as a local member that's at fault.
If re-elected, Eddie Hughes says he'll sit down with police to discuss what they need.
We will sit down with the police and determine what resources they need, what people they need to get the job done.
Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
It comes as SA Best doubles down on its claims. Labor's plan for a hydrogen plant in Whyalla is a white elephant. The candidate for Giles, citing a report in today's Advertiser, where a former Labor advisor in the 1990s had doubts over the project. Tom Antonio says the money could be better spent elsewhere.
They really create these pie-in-the-sky projects that they know they can't deliver. They're more important issues than these sort of projects that the people of Giles have to have.
The current member for Giles has hit back, saying the project will diversify the city's economy.
Once again, it's just nonsense on the part of SA Best. Here is the largest state investment in Whyalla in decades, diversifying our economy, creating jobs and creating opportunity.
The Liberals have also spoken out against the proposal. And the Liberal government has promised to invest more than $4 million to build new facilities at Port Augusta schools if re-elected on Saturday. Each school would receive more than $2 million each to replace outdated transportable classroom facilities.
Upgrades about to commence at Willesden Primary School and Augusta Park Primary School. We will continue rolling out these upgrades because we know that as the world continues to evolve and modernise, facilities need to come with it.
The Deputy Premier also saying the funding would see new world-class modern modular learning areas built in their place. Still to come tonight, a prestigious school announces scholarships for Port Augusta Aboriginal children. And Port Pirie agricultural students have a crack at sheep shearing. Welcome back. Staff members from one of Adelaide's most prestigious colleges have travelled to Port Augusta to connect with local Indigenous children. With fully funded scholarships available, the school is ready to welcome students with bright futures ahead of them.
Educating the leaders of tomorrow. Scotch College offering up an inclusive scholarship to Port Augusta students.
We're here today in Port Augusta to essentially promote Yallery and Scotch and the opportunity for young Indigenous families.
So the program itself involves full board, full tuition, participation in a whole range of activities.
The Deputy Principal says students have more than 36 subjects to choose from, a top sports program and an extensive performing arts division.
We've been partnering with the Yallery organisation now for 12 years and we've had out of that program 18 graduates and we're really proud of those graduates. They've come from all across Australia.
This is a great pathway into universities and to really eventually give back to community.
The school says the scholarship allows students to see a world beyond where they grew up, learn and eventually return to their community as a skilled individual.
And the opportunities, in these big cities, especially for, the Indigenous community, it's about having the opportunity to make decisions.
The college encourages all Aboriginal families with students from years 7 to 11 who are interested to get in contact.
You can go to the Yallery online website and learn a little bit more. There's a month until applications close for next year.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Vegetation which once spread across the Western Eyre Peninsula has now been listed as critically endangered by the federal government. The Landscape Board is now spreading awareness around the species.
A vegetation community on the Eyre Peninsula getting the protection it needs.
Sheoak grassy woodlands on Cow Creek, that's always, in our opinion, been something that's been struggling with lots of threats from fire and rabbits and sheep and kangaroos over time, and recently it got listed with the Australian government to be protected.
The vegetation is distributed across the Eyre Peninsula just north of Streaky Bay and down towards Coffin Bay. The Landscape Board has been keeping an eye on the Sheoak grassy woodlands for years.
In 2018, the Eyre Peninsula Landscape Board, with the help of others, put an application to the Australian government to get this community listed. We've probably known for 20 years it should be listed as a threatened veg community, but to get the evidence to get that approved took us a while.
The vegetation is made up of she oak trees, overstory and a variety of shrubs. Andrew Freeman also saying it's vital to protect it to support wildlife.
So the vegetation type did and can still support lots of wildlife. It was a really productive system in the early European years, has lots of Aboriginal significance and culture, so we should look after all systems.
The Landscape Board encouraging landowners to conserve this type of vegetation.
We really encourage landholders with these vegetation types on their land to conserve it, do revegetation, and there's people to help try and make that happen as well.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Students at St Mark's College have been putting their farming skills to the test this week by learning how to crutch a sheep. The course is designed to encourage more students to consider farming as a career, with the industry in great need of more workers.
The next generation of farmers. Students in years 9, 10 and 11 have been working their way around a sheep, learning how to crutch one by themselves. Crutching, when the bottoms of the sheep are shaved, is to prevent moisture build-up and protect their wool from flies.
They certainly can ruin the wool, and also they lay their eggs, so the fly strike is the maggots that within 2 days they can decimate a sheep really.
The junior farmers have been learning all the ins and outs of the tools and putting on a brave face when it comes to handling the sheep.
It can be a bit nerve-wracking at start, but once you do it a couple of times it gets easier.
Well, yesterday, I have to admit, pulled every muscle because I wasn't used to it, but today it's getting easier.
The 2-day course giving the students a taste of farm work before the full sheep shearing program begins later this year.
They'll get enrolled in different units of competency which can go towards their SACE and future training, which is excellent, and there's a huge shortage in the industry.
The students recommending the course and encouraging more young ones to jump on board.
I'd just do it. It's definitely worth it, and all the new skills you learn, it's definitely handy further on in life.
Christian Komenos, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Far West creatives encouraged to add their mark on a major art project. And last-minute preparations are underway for Whalers Unearth Festival. Hello again. Harvest is off to a busy start for Port Lincoln winemakers, with a range of grapes already picked off the vines. Peter Teakle Wines is hopeful this could be one of the company's best vintages yet.
This year's harvest already pouring in. After a slow start, Peter Teakle Wines is preparing its Riesling for this year's vintage.
We had some really cool weather and some rain over summer that we don't normally have, so we started with Chardonnay 2 weeks ago, but today we've got the rest of our whites off, which is the Riesling, the Sem and the Sauvignon Blanc.
Also saying the wet weather didn't impact the quality of the grapes.
The rain didn't do any harm, it sort of washed a bit of dust off and the fruit all looks really good. It was nice and dry. Came in about 6 o'clock this morning and just checked it and everything was dry, so we've got straight into it picking our Riesling.
This year's vintage shaping up to be one of the winery's best to date.
The whites are looking fantastic. That cool weather's just helped keep that natural acidity, and we've got really good crops. So our vineyards, they're still fairly young, but we've got some really good balance now in the canopies.
But there is still a bit of work to do. Liz is hopeful to get the Riesling bottled early this year, around June or July. However, those who prefer their reds will have to wait a little longer.
The whites are about an 8-week sort of process. The reds are longer. We'll pick them in about 2 weeks, and they'll take a few weeks to ferment, and then obviously sort of about 18 months in barrel after that.
The wine cellar door is open on weekends from 10:45 to 5. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
West Darling Arts is taking expressions of interest from artists for the Regional Futures project. The statewide project will see one person from the region selected to have their art shown at the Western Sydney Artist Exchange.
Calling all artists and creatives. If you'd like to represent your region, then this project is for you. And it's open to all forms of art.
Not just your usual suspects, which are your painters and so on and so forth, but also musicians, for example, performers, craftspeople. It's absolutely anything.
Expressions of interest opening up a week ago. While a couple of people have entered so far, West Darling Arts is keen for more.
only been open, I think, about a week so far. And we've had a couple of interested artists, but we'd love to hear from more.
The theme of the project is Regional Future. Artists will need to show how their region will look down the track, with judges looking for some creative ideas.
It's interesting times that we're in, so hopefully that's sort of food for thought. So for the assessment, it'll be, what looks like a great idea, basically.
Miss Fari will be one of the judges on the panel, representing the Far West. The other judges will be from outside the area.
We'll also have people from outside the region to make up that panel. So, consultants who are running the project, and also another representative from Regional Arts New South Wales.
Expressions of interest close on March 28th. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The last preparations are underway for this weekend's opening night of the Upper Spencer Gulf's biggest arts exhibition. Whalers Music Association will be kicking off the festivities with an opening ceremony for the Unearth Festival.
Get ready for a weekend full of music, arts and crafts in Whyalla. The Unearth Festival officially kicking off its 9-day slate of events. Organisers keen for a full spectacle following COVID pandemic interruptions.
We've been missing events happening in Whyalla. We've been able to do smaller scales. So to put on a 9-day festival here for our community across town and engage local groups and everything, it's sensational. The committee are really excited.
A pre-launch event happening on Friday night, with cocktails and glitter craft available as a warm-up for what's to come. The official opening on Saturday night, hosted at the Whyalla Left Hand Club.
The Left Hand Club is hosting pretty much the opening night gig of the festival. It's all-inclusive kind of band night with 6 different performers going on.
Filled with back-to-back bands, keen to showcase their talent to the entire Whyalla community.
The big headliner for the night is a band called Victoria K, which is, people liken them to Evanescence. They've got their own spin.
Family-friendly activities also on Saturday morning and afternoon, making sure everyone can join in.
We have a nice little family fun day with Hold My Beer playing as well, so there's plenty for everyone to enjoy.
The final events of the Unearth Festival will be held on March 27. Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Our fishing experts will share their tips for the weekend, and I'll have all the weather details. Welcome back. We're in for some sun across the Spencer Gulf this weekend, which may be ideal for those wanting to drop a line. Here are our fishing experts with their tips.
Hi, Whalers fishing tips this weekend from the local foreshore. Still a few nice silver whiting coming in there early in the morning, and also some garfish. Off the local jetty, some nice crabs are starting to run there, mainly throughout the night time, but there has been a few caught throughout the day. Also a few squid late in the evenings off the local jetty as well. Black Point has some nice garfish, and there's also been some small kingfish spotted along the mushroom rocks there. A little bit further around to Point Lowly, some nice salmon schools, and for the boaties, plenty of crabs starting to run right across Whyalla.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, seasons are on its change at the moment, so we'll start seeing a few more species start to pop up, but the crabs are in full swing at the moment, basically everywhere and big and full of meat. The razorfish ban has lifted, so you can go out there and get them. Try to not take too many from one spot there and spread it around a little bit. Some really nice snook getting caught around the mouth of the creeks over Chinaman's Creek, also up in Port Patterson and along the Letty Spit Bank there as well on the Troll. Silver whiting been a little bit patchy. When the big tides are up, try along the beach along the front of the shacks, and as always out in that Flinders Channel area at the low tide. All we have from the Jewel of the North.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. We'll start locally in the bay. The garfish and blue crabs have been going pretty well in our local waters. And down on the south coast there's been some nice schools of salmon and plenty of bronze whalers following them. Over to the Coffin Bay side, inside the bay there has been some nice garfish, some salmon trout and a few whiting, but mixed sizes, so you will need to measure quite a few. Out wide of Sir Isaac's there have been some tuna, especially down around the hummocks, and there's been some big salmon up at Craw's Rock. Up at Venus Bay, we've had some reports of some good-sized snook through the bay system there, even right down to Port Kenny. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather. From 3 p.m. today, it got to 33 degrees in Port Augusta and Woodner, a degree warmer in Port Pirie. 27 and mostly sunny in Kadina, Port Lincoln a top of 26, 32 across the border in Broken Hill. Cooper Pedy had the region's high of 35, while Adelaide had the low of 25. Taking a look at the satellite image now, scattered cloud with a trough over northern and eastern parts of South Australia is triggering showers and storms, some intense. Clear elsewhere with a dry air mass. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Variable winds at 10 knots, seas below 1 metre, and south to southwesterly swell also below 1 metre. A marine wind warning was issued for South Australia, while a severe thunderstorm warning was issued for parts of the Flinders and northeast pastoral districts. Partly cloudy in Port Lincoln, 23 degrees, Cleaver top of 24, Woodner cloud clearing with 30. Whyalla mostly sunny and 28, similar in Port Augusta 31, Kadina cloud clearing a max of 29. Mostly sunny elsewhere, Port Pirie 33, Clare to reach 29 and Broken Hill a top of 31 degrees. Taking a look further through the week now, starting with that anticipated weekend forecast. On Saturday, we'll see some sun peek through, 31 in Whyalla and Broken Hill, Adelaide and Kadina to top 32, Port Pirie 34, Port Augusta and Woodner 35, Port Lincoln 26. No dramatic changes on Sunday, Cooper Pedy sunny and 37, Woodner 35, Port Pirie a top of 33, Broken Hill and Adelaide both 32. Looking at the start of a new week and maybe even a new government. Kadina and Adelaide to reach 31 on Monday, 34 in Whyalla and Broken Hill, Port Lincoln 29, Port Augusta 38, a degree warmer in Cooper Pedy. That's all the weather and local news from me this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have news and weather updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. See you again tomorrow on the eve of the state election. Good night.